Hello again to another Agakala React, and today I'll be watching where new interstates are being built in America from GeoHuman. It's a channel that I haven't seen anything yet from, and I'm kind of interested because I didn't. I mean, it's probably a bit terrible to assume that all of the interstates are built in America already, taking into account that they were building them for nearly 100 years, I believe. So maybe let's just jump into it and just see. Okay, so there you go, and here.
Freeway construction in the US is nothing new. Ever since the first freeways were built in 1940 and the founding of the Interstate system in 1956, massive highways have been built all across the country, with over 50,000 miles of freeways connecting every major city. Whilst freeway construction has slowed since the 60s and 70s, there are still many plans for new highways to connect even more cities. Before we start, we need to understand the two ways most highways get built. First and most common way is upgrading already existing routes. This is especially common for new interstates, such as an expansion of the current I-73 along the US 220 corridor to the north and the US 501 corridor to the south. The second, less common way is building an entirely new road, which is a lot more expensive and destructive. An example is the construction of I-840 around Nashville, Tennessee. This method is the more controversial method since it often requires the use of eminent domain to buy land in the path of freeways, which is pretty destructive in many cases, especially in urban areas. Now that we know how new interstates are born, let's look at some that I didn't cover in my other video, as well as some expanding interstates. First with new interstates. First example of a new interstate is I-42 in North Carolina. Once completed, the route will run from an interchange south of Raleigh on I-40 to Morehead City. Segment from I-40 to Wilson's Mills is in the process of being signed as I-42, and the DOT is slowly working on upgrading the rest of US 72 interstate standards. Personally, I'm not sure why this route requires an interstate destination, since it doesn't pass through any major population centers.
I'm gonna stop
Next
and just do something
entirely new interstate.
that's probably not very
population centers.
it's not very on topic with this video, but I just lost the map. I was just there, man. Come on, 10 seconds. Alright, two more, too far. Too close. Too far again. Okay, you see here? Emerald Isle. I'm presuming that was named by Irish immigrants.
Working on upgrading the rest of US 72 interstate
island.
standards. Personally, I'm not sure why this route requires an interstate destination, since it doesn't pass through any major population centers. Next one is also an entirely new interstate, that being I-3.
I thought that interstate just basically means it goes in between the states, isn't it? Is that not what it is? Isn't the interstates literally a major road that goes in between the states, not just within the state? Or the inter would kind of suggest that it's just within the state. I don't know, I'm gonna have to Google that later, if I remember.
Contrary to what you might think, this route is not
maybe I should make a note.
Coast. For whatever reason, the Stop-Forsaken Highway is almost 2,000 miles away from the west coast. Apparently it's because it's named after a military division headquartered near where the interstate will be. Seriously? That's not how the interstate naming conventions are supposed to work. But whatever, I can't control it. Anyways, the proposed route is actually unclear as of now. Most accepted route would be along US 129 through the Appalachian Mountains and a road by several existing routes between North Carolina and Savannah, Georgia. The route would be roughly 400 miles long and connect Knoxville to Augusta and Savannah. I don't really see this one happening anytime soon, especially the part through the Appalachian Mountains, because that's some tough terrain. The rest of the interstates I'll mention are all expansions of current interstates.
It's tough terrain, but it's still probably easier to do than, let's say, building through the Rockies, isn't it?
We still have some in North Carolina to cover. Before we get to them, quickly smash that red button below to help me get to 1,000 subscribers before
I was loud.
Back to North Carolina. If you're not aware already, North Carolina loves building freeways. I already talked about I-87 in my last video, but there are still more interstates that the DOT is building. Ignoring bypass projects like I-540 and I-295, we start with the one from the thumbnail, I-73. Originally, this one was planned to go all the way from northern Michigan to Myrtle Beach. More recent plans have only included the section from Roanoke to Myrtle Beach as part of future I-73. Unlike many other freeway plans, I actually think this one is a good idea. A lot of the route is already pretty close to being a freeway, and it gives many large cities a freeway connection, including Myrtle Beach, one of the largest metro areas without an exterior freeway connection at all. Current segment runs from an interchange north of Greensboro to an interchange near Rockingham. Once complete, the route will be just under 300 miles long. Sister route to I-73, I-74 is also planned to be built along a similar corridor in North and South Carolina. I-74 has a major plan to try and connect the original segment of I-74 in Cincinnati, though this likely won't happen. A likely scenario is having I-74 run from the Virginia-North Carolina border near Mount Erie and run through the state until reaching Wilmington or Myrtle Beach.
If we could talk about a thing, because as far as I understand, the interstates going north-south are called with the numbers 7, blah, things like that, isn't it? And the north, they just one going east to west. It's gonna be less of them, so the numbers are is a 1, 2, 3, things like that. Or no, I'm mistaken, because actually the one that goes through the Big Sur, it's Interstate 1, isn't it? Okay, I probably don't know what I'm talking about now, and I'm probably just spewing some nonsense. But is the number 73 and 74 in existence? Like 73 is already in existence, is it? So is a 74 a new one? And what happens if there's a one build new? Because I assumed that basically it goes like 1, 2, 3 in order from east to west. So again, wrong, because number 1 is in the west. So yeah. Okay, maybe I'm just gonna stop talking. Maybe there'll be actually some explanation later in the video.
It's not decided yet. Current planned route is 258 miles long, but if South Carolina agrees to connect it to Myrtle Beach, then the route would be closer to 300 miles long. Okay, North Carolina, we get it. You like building interstates. Surely there's some plans elsewhere, right? We don't have to go back to North Carolina, right? Thankfully, yes. Besides I-69, which has enough shenanigans for a video of its own, there's still other freeway extensions.
That's a long one, huh?
Firstly, we have an extension of I-57 to Little Rock. This one is pretty simple, extending from the current end in Sykeston at I-55 along US 60 and 67 towards Little Rock. Only part that needs major upgrades is the section between Walnut Ridge and Poplar Bluff, which will likely take a while since Arkansas has 2 other highways to focus on, I-69 and another highway that I've yet to mention. The extension will be approximately 250 miles long and will serve as a shortcut for the Dallas to Chicago route. I personally think this route is worth it, since it won't require that much work to bring it to interstate standards. The third to last interstate I'll talk about is I-99 in New York and Pennsylvania. Like I-3, this route does not fit the grid, being well west of I-95. However, I do give it sort of a pass, since it's between I-79 and I-81. It currently runs in 2 sections, one from I-70/76.
Okay, there's a map here, yeah? So we have 80 going, seems like west to east, is it? Yeah, 80. 83 here, 78, 81. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look on that.
Bedford, Pennsylvania to I-80 in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, and the other from Corning, New York to the state line. Don't really see the need for an upgrade here. The current routes already serve their purpose. Do want to quickly point out that the route doesn't actually go all the way to I-80 right now, ends at this intersection less than a mile before meeting I-80. Our second to last interstate is none other than I-49, the other route I alluded to earlier. Till very recently, work to building this route was pretty significant. As recent as 2021, new segments were still being added to the highway, with the completion of the Bella Vista bypass in northwestern Arkansas and southwestern Missouri. 150-mile stretch of the highway between I-40 and the current I-49 still needs to be built from scratch in Arkansas and Texas, which won't be done for at least another 10 years. Final planned segment and extension to New Orleans along US 90 requires less work, since most of the route is already a 4-lane expressway. They do need a plan on how to get around this segment in Lafayette. Not the biggest fan of this route personally, but I do understand why it's being built. Last but not least, we're ending it off with I-86. There are 2 I-86s in the US, one in Idaho and one in New York. The one in New York is the one we're interested in, evident by the 2 segments of I-86. Which means there could be 3 I-86s in the US? Yeah, it's very confusing. At least it won't be this way when it's done, which shouldn't take much work. Notice that the remaining route is already a freeway with just this small segment of New York 17 near the Pennsylvania border that isn't a freeway. New York has been delaying this highway's construction for over a decade now, with only minor improvements happening between 2010 and now, such as the construction of a couple new exits. Besides that, the rest of the route is yet to be an interstate. It's not entirely New York's fault for this, since the segment between the 2 existing I-86 destinations is already complete to interstate standards, but is yet to be approved. Once complete, the route will be around 370 miles long, from I-90 east of Erie to I-87 in New York City exurbs. For whatever reason, a lot of people think the interstate system has been dead since they completed the original routes in 1992. However, these new interstates are proving to people that new interstate highway projects can and still work throughout the country, even if it takes a decade and 32 different unexpected problems in their construction. With the beginning of rail's growth in the US, only time will tell how future projects will
I was just going to mention that. It's just like, are they going to actually build more of a public transport that people actually want to use in America? Because, you know, like all those memes about not using public transport in America, and then you have excellent public transport in Europe and things like that, so comparison is a bit different. So a lot of people need cars in America, so obviously there's more people coming, there's being in general, so basically there's more cars, so there's need more space. So I don't understand why anyone would assume that any interstates and stuff like that would be not being done anymore, but
not to mention the problems with maintaining the current road network. The future may not be very bright for the interstate system, but that won't prevent it from extending to even more communities across the US, whether they ask for it or not. And with that, we talked about every upcoming large interstate, right? Wrong. The interstate system is still expanding with even bigger projects in the works. Interested in what those might look like?
I wonder what kind of
This
machine is
video
this?
will give you 5 more interstate projects that are currently being planned and constructed.
Oh. That was surprisingly short. 7 minutes only? Okay, so, I was kind of like mentioning it already in the video. It's just like, interstate is... Let's see, what's the difference? Interstate... Because I'm kind of thinking from the actual talking in the video that interstate is the freeway within the state. Interstate... Let's see... known a highway serving 2 or more states, sometimes the initial capital letter, highway that is part of the nationwide US interstate highway system. So yeah, so it's basically in between 2 states, at least 2 states. So, okay, so I was kinda right, okay, yeah, I was right for once. And, is there anything else to add? Because he kinda like I already rumbled around this, and it's just I think that with growing population you kind of do have to invest in roads as well, because obviously there will be more cars, not even like a private cars, but just for deliveries and things like that, and especially now with growing online shopping and things like that, people prefer to do that, I believe, and just basically you kind of need that, and you can't just do it finished done. It can't be improved, and sometimes they have to be built anew as well. So yeah, that's kind of interesting, you know. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I see you tomorrow. Bye.